What's up everybody, I'm Scott Bono. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we are going to demo this Laboga Mr Hector. Ever since I got this amp, I've had a bunch of people reach out to me and say, hey Scott, can you do a demo of this amp? I want to know what this thing sounds like. I'm going to do that today. I'm going to finally do a demo of this amp. I've been meaning to do this one for a little while. But before I go any further, why don't we just hear some tones right off the bat? What we're going to do first is we're going to jump in to a demo song. Let's hit it. All right, so there you have it. That's what the Mr. Hector sounds like in the context of a mix. If you want to know my signal chain and all that fun stuff, I'll post it down in the description below for all the nerds. But the rest of this video, I do want to play some isolated guitar on this amp so you can hear how it sounds. Again, in terms of my signal chain for everything that you're about to hear, check the description below. I'll post everything down there. I might kind of have some other shots cut in on screen so you can see what's going on here, but essentially my setup is the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some clean tones. I'm going to play some clean tones using my beautiful LSL Satakoy. This amp actually has some great clean sounds in it, so you can hear some of that. And then I will switch to my OD Guitars Rhea, and I'll do some isolated guitar with the heavy stuff, with the overdrive and chuggy stuff, which is what I think most people are here to hear. So yeah, you'll hear this amp. Everything that I'm doing, I'm running it through my Omega 412. That is mic'd up with a Shure SM57 and a Naumann TLM 102. Again, I'll post everything down in the description below, but let's start off with some clean tones. All right, so what I'm going to do now is play some isolated heavy tones for you using the lead channel of the Mr. Hector. I'm going to start off by playing just the head on its own with no pedals. After that, I'll layer in some pedals so you can hear how this amp responds to certain pedals. So what I have in front of the amp is a KHDK Ascendancy Overdrive pedal, and then in the loop, I have this Guptec PDEQ. This is a really cool pedal. It mimics or mirrors like what a depth and a presence control would do on an amplifier for amplifiers that don't have a depth and a presence control. And the Laboga Mr. Hector does not have a depth and a presence control, so this is a great pedal to use with this amp. But anyways, like I said, let's start off by playing just the amp on its own. Couple things to note. This has a mid switch and it also has a bright switch. I will engage those in a second so you can hear how those sound. But anyways, this is what the lead channel sounds like. Now what I'm going to do is engage the bright switch, and what it does is it makes the sound more bright. Listen. Now what I'm I'm gonna do is engage the mid switch. I don't really like the mid switch. What it does is it shifts the whole EQ of the amp and it sounds totally different. I can see how this would work on like lower tunings or like a 7 or 8 string if you kind of tweaked it a bit. I don't love it with this guitar and this tuning, but I'll play it for you anyway so you can hear how that sounds. But yeah, you'll hear what's going on. It really does shift the EQ. It cuts a lot of the low end. Anyways, yeah, I'll shut up. Just listen to it. Yeah, anyways, so what I'm gonna do now is I'll play a riff with the, I'm gonna keep that mid switch off. I'll have the bright switch on. So I'll play a riff and then I'll play that same riff again and I'll engage the overdrive and then I'll play the riff again and noodle on some sloppy guitar with the Guptec PD EQ also engaged so you can hear how all of that sounds together. Anyways, without further ado, here are some more tones. Alright kids, so there you have it, my demo of the Laboga Mr Hector. Was this a super in-depth scientific demo? No, it wasn't. I didn't tweak any knobs. There's probably some other videos out there of people turning and twisting knobs. I didn't do that today. I just kind of set it the way I like it, and I hope you liked it too, and if you didn't, that's okay too. You know, everybody's got opinions and everybody's got preferences, and sometimes they match mine and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. But anyways, yeah, this is a cool amp. If you're still here and you're listening to me talk and want to know what I think, some people have asked me, hey, what's the Laboga sound like? Does it sound like a Marshall? Does it sound like a 5150? Does it sound like a Rectifier? Does it sound like a, well, whatever, right? Like what does it kind of compare to? And what I'd say sonically is this amp is kind of its own thing, which is really cool, right? Because in a time where a lot of amplifiers sort of sound a bit like each other, it is refreshing to find an amp that doesn't really quite sound like something else. However, if you were to force me to pick something that it kind of sounds like, I would say it, to me, sounds closest to like a Rectifier. It's got that kind of like Rectifier low end. It's a little bit kind of flubby. It's got that like sizzle. I don't know. I'm not even sure the right word to use, but it reminds me most of a Rectifier. With that said, this amp sounds pretty good on its own. Like given when I did the isolated guitar stuff, I had the gain pretty low because I knew I was going to be adding in some pedals. But if you turn off that gain, it gets a bit more saturated. It's a little bit nicer. But what I'll say though, This amp really does benefit from a boost and some EQ. It's a good like bass amp, not like bass guitar amp, but like a bass layer amp where you can add like overdrives and different EQ to really shape your tone. It's a nice amp for that reason, which is kind of like why I like rectifiers too. They sort of in the same ballpark in that regard. But what I would say is with this amp, it can get fizzy, like really fizzy really quickly. You got to be kind of careful with it. I find if you're a little too heavy-handed on the treble within the EQ section or a little bit too heavy on the gain, it gets kind of nasty and hairy in a like not really a pleasing way. It's a little bit nasally, it's a little bit too much sizzle, a little bit too much fizz. You start to lose note definition, so you really got to kind of spend some time with this amp to get it to sound right in your mix and your setup. So, but when you do, it's kind of a fun amp to play. Like I said, it's pretty different than a lot of my other amps, which is cool. And what I do appreciate is the clean channel is really good. It's not a write-off. Like, for example, most older rectifiers, at least, they're pretty much a write-off. But this has a really nice clean channel. So, yeah, that's my demo. That's my playthrough of a Laboga Mr Hector. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and consider subscribing. And remember, stay safe and stay heavy. See you in the next video.